Well, dear Mr. Komatsu and dear team of the Human Nature Science Institute, I'm very thankful that I can speak here and that you invite me to be here. Audience, thank you for lending me an ear. Although I do not speak your language, I hope you get the essence and we have a very good translator. This is the first time I visit your beautiful country. It was a challenge for me, and I immediately recall what I've learned at school. At school, I've learned that we, for 200 years, the Dutch, were the only trading Western country that had access to Japan. We had access to Decima. In 641, we sailed to Japan with 6 ships, and only 5 ships arrived. And that ship was called Love. And I think that is a good start for a journey. I like to introduce a little bit where I come from. For your information, my country is below sea level. So most of the Dutch are living not under occupation, but underwater. I would like to show you some images. For instance, this is not a dike, this is not a bridge, this is a door to keep the water outside our country. My country is absolutely flat, and maybe that is the reason that I work with clay. Clay is the material you grow, you nourish. But clay in the hands of an artist is food for the brain and food for the heart. I think of all the materials in the world, clay has the biggest history. It goes back for more than 10,000 years. For me, it is a challenge to try to make the combination between clay and the digital world. So I like to bring a bright future for the clay in the world. It is for me a challenge that you named your symposium the eternal river that flows everywhere. It is the relation to my country. I had a remarkable thought. If I look a little bit to your history and to your mind, the stars are very important for you. The stars are a kind of reality. But if I look to the stars in the reality, I can see images that looks for our reality, but they don't even exist anymore. If I look under my feet and I look down to what is hidden in the clay, that is my real history. But the clay under my feet does not give a millimeter of information. The ground under my feet doesn't show to my eyes, it hides everything. In this very small country, there is an old factory. And in this old factory, I work on my dreams. My dreams, there you see that are the little blue sacks you see over there. Underneath there are all sculptures. This is the place where we made Bertha von Soetmar. A place where dreams are born because whoever doesn't believe in dreams is not a realist. Mr. Komatsu, I have read your book and I studied the things your Human Nature Science Institute endeavors in the field of international peace. When you speak about peace, you see it as an extension of harmony. Harmony is a concept probably experienced differently and rooted deeper in Asia. The history of Europe, like yours, consists of endless battles and bloodshed, reaching a climax in 2 world wars. These are so terrible that after World War II, in Europe, the poets stopped writing poetry and the sculptors stopped searching for beauty. The artistic world was crippled and silenced. In the course of the last century, the arts have been rapidly changing. While the artists were used to work for the churches and royal families, and in general to those who were in power, nowadays we see that they are choosing to grow their own goals and try to articulate what needs to be said. We teach young artists skills to do research. We encourage them to search for a meaningful life and meaningful artworks. Artists nowadays are educated to think independently and stand up for their ideas. You may say, we try to make dreamers of them for the benefit of the reality. Dear audience, let it be clear, we all looking for a workable and sustainable future. I mean that we have to educate ourselves and our youngsters. For this symposium, The Sunrise of Ichimo, I will try to present my thoughts about a sustainable future that will also be a peaceful future and the important role of the arts in society. What do I teach my students? First of all, I ask, in what kind of world do you want to live? Forget about absolute security. Doesn't exist. Keep searching for a sense of liberation. Get your fears under control. Yes, get your fears under control. If there is anything in the world that can help us to achieve this, that are the arts. In the arts, important processes are taking place. We think, we imagine, we are able to try out new shapes, and we bring about small changes in the order of things. We can produce a sign, and signs, with a sign, we are able to change. We can show our willingness and response by factually doing so. Art is the place where we can resist mediocrity, populism, and unbridled capitalism. My most important question to my student is, what image of the world do you want to portray as a portrait? What values do you like to defend? What image of mankind emerge? What possibilities do you see? The impossibility of your situation. Reality offers opportunities and ideas that would never occur to you. Where borders are fading away, new horizons will appear. What I want to communicate with you is that in the art we analyze, we try to find new points of views, and we generate new possibilities. It means working for the future. I will make myself clear by showing. For me personal, art is solidified, materialized thought. Your question to me was to make visible what art can contribute to your attempt to bring more sustainable peace in the regions. My answer, however, is the answer of an outsider. I try to do this when my experience goes beyond 20 years. I do it in two different ways. One, by founding the Theater of Wrong Decisions. Two, by working for almost 20 years in a refugee camp in the Gaza Strip. Gaza is a little piece of land situated in Palestine. It is in conflict with Israel. I work there with the war traumatized children via arts. My colleague Willem and I have founded in Gaza, Palestine, a foundation called Holland Office for Personal Encouragement. In this studio, 350 children get support on a daily basis. We are offering lessons in the field of art and culture. The Hope Foundation wants to encourage traumatized children, including children with disabilities, to build a meaningful life for themselves. The observation of a child may give cause to embark on a therapy process. Sadly, war is a recurrent phenomenon in the world until now. We do not have a world without traumatized children. We attempt to reduce the negative active effects of the war and contribute to a process that enables these children to live a meaningful life. We attempt to reach our goals by offering lessons in art in our open studio. The arts activate the imagination, sharpen the mind and heal the heart, creating conditions that lead to increased self-respect and confidence. Those people are living in very bad circumstances. In the summer, it's extremely hot. In the winter, it's cold. And the bombardment are going on continuously. The Hope Foundation also interfaces with society and it encourages participation with parents. For the last 7 years, we work together with the Red Cross of Holland. The Dutch Red Cross is responsible for the finances. 6 years ago, I could not stay silent anymore. And then the war entered my work. The WikiLeaks film of the killings from a helicopter in Baghdad and the enormous bombardments on Gaza with 1,430 casualties made me react. First, I make a big statue that's called The Return of the Ghosts. I start to work with Shakespeare. The Return of the Ghost became a wonderful project. Activists from South Africa, Africa, Middle East, Europe came together to exchange knowledge and information. Our government was so impressed by the things we were developing that they invited all the people together to speak out loud and speak in the open in the Parliament of Holland, in The Hague, Mr. Komatsu, and people from the Science Institute, The Hague, that you have visited last years. I've asked my colleague, a Dutch designer, Guus Boudestein, to develop a book that could be an artwork in itself. He succeeded in this effort. We made an installation from 1,430 books. On every book, there is a name of a victim of the bombardment. The whole edition showed 1,407 Palestinians and 30 Israeli names. We have installed this huge installation in the Museum of Fine Art in Brussels, Belgium. You will believe me or not, but in 5 days' time, there were 23,000 visitors. 23,000 visitors came to stand in the nomadic memorial, and we were standing there with 5 of us so that we could speak in 5 languages, but it was unimaginable. The second attempt for me to do something as an artist in relation to war and injustice was to start the theater of wrong decisions. In this way, with the theater of wrong decisions, we want to comment on the present by using views from the past. All our statements are related to Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote his plays 400 years ago. Shakespeare, however, in his turn, found his inspiration 2,000 years ago. A film about Syria is about Macbeth. And he has beautiful sentence like, all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little heart. The philosopher and the dramatist from the Dutch National Theatre supply us with right quotes and accompanies plays by Shakespeare. The next film I want to show you from the Theatre of the Wrong Decisions is about all the refugees from the Arabic countries that fled into the sea of the Mediterranean, and they flee by very bad boats, and 10,000 of people get drowned because they want to reach Europe, and they can't. The Theatre of Wrong Decisions gives also performances and invite a lot of people to come and exchange knowledge. This is a chess play, and it will be destroyed afterwards. Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on. Door? Yeah, door. This is a very short clip, and it is a question about war. It's a question for North Korea, and it's a question for the Gaza Strip. Who benefits from this war? If a war goes on continuously, somebody must earn a lot of money. Hamlet is saying so.
We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
The truth is that Shakespeare had in his time the same problems with the same island. And Shakespeare is then talking about 400 years ago that he wrote it, but 2,000 years that it took place. There is another artist in South Africa I admire very, very much. And that artist does a lot of investigation about the past of the black people. And by doing that investigation, he discovered that the concentration camps of the German were started in South Africa. and that the concentration camps in South Africa were developed by the Germans, and when they really know how to do it, then they exported it to Europe. Without the art, that truth had never come out. But William Shakespeare, like me, we don't use found footage, but we try to build new images so that we can talk and start all over. Yeah. This is a little film that shows that in the end, the warrior will fall apart. So there, in the clay of our delta, our grass is growing. And if you are in my studio, you hear doof, doof, because the nature is destroying the warrior. And this is William Kentridge from South Africa. And he tries to show the pain of mankind.
In the activity of making the work, there's a sense that if you spend a day or 2 days drawing an object or an image, there's a sympathy towards that object embodied in the human labor of making the drawing. And for me, there is something in the dedication to the image, whether it's Jericho painting guillotined heads. So on the one hand, it's a shocking image, but there's something about the hours of physically studying those heads and painting them that becomes a compassionate act for me. Even though on the one hand you can say, well, it's very cold-bloodedly and ghoulishly looking at disaster or using other people's pain as raw material for the work. That's what every artist does, is use other people's pain as well as their own as raw material. So there is a kind of a, if not a vampireness, certainly an appropriation of other people's distress in the activity of being a writer or an artist. But there's also something in the activity of both contemplating, depicting and spending the time with it, which I hope as an artist redeems the activity from one of simply exploitation and abuse.
What I admire in this work is that he only works with charcoal that burned material. Dear audience, I mentioned already the Second World War. It is something that Europe has to deal with, and Asia had to deal with it as well. There's some difference between Europe and Asia. I think the main question is, how can we work towards a situation without revenge? I think it was very important that Germany offers endless apologies. A program by the name of reparation was set up. In places where Germany called damages, civilians volunteer in repairing it. This is unrelated to all the reparation payments Germany made to the governments of all the states. Even today, there are programs that maintain focus on acquiring young people with mechanisms of war, peace, and coexistence. And I'd like to tell you my personal story. When I was 6 years old, my father said to me, "Take the atlas out of the cupboard." And he said to me, "Look, this is Germany. That's a very big country. This is Holland, very small. Now you go to school, and other people are going to interfere with your upbringing. If you are sitting at school, and at any moment a teacher or one of your classmates is making nicknames out of Germans, call them screws, then you will stand up, walk away, and you come home straight." When I was grown up, I thought, what a hero my father is. He wanted us to start with a brand new life in a world without revenge. And he himself was 3 times descended to a camp, so he knows where he was talking about. But he said, we are all interdependent of each other, and we have arrived in a new age. Mr. Komatsu, I think that this story of a man and a child was also your story. You said, we have reached the point of no return. We are all dependent on each other through the International Labour Division in the basic industries of food, clothing and housing. To reach your goal, you employ a variety of methods. The fact that you also involve the arts moves me deeply. I will try to explain. If art is solidified thought, what could be the function of a sculpture? I think a sculpture is a stationary moment in time, the outcome of a row of successive thoughts and associations. If the essence of a thought is clear and universal, the artwork can, from out of the blue, provide an insight that is more comprehensive and deeper than that provided by a pile of books. As first sight, a work of art affects the heart, and only later, it reaches the head. If a work of art moves the spectator, it is possible that it mobilizes the person. The spectator may be prompted into action. Mr. Komatsu, action, that is what you want. I don't know you very long, but it is all about doing. And this is exactly what we achieve with your institute. You wish for mankind to work on peace and imagine and reflect on the desired future. It is your dream to build a stage of empathy for man's evolution. For the first time in history, in the Japanese archipelago and the Korean Pennsylvania, the place where the 3 nuclear powers meet, you believe this can be done by learning from American smart power, Chinese hexi, harmony, Korean wayang, harmony, and the Japanese wajo, harmony. I think in this area it is possible. You give me the opportunity to visit the memorial of An Jung-gun in Korea. That is a story about the man who killed your prime minister because Korea was under occupation. But that man cut his finger after he had shot the prime minister and started to make calligraphies. The calligraphies were with such much knowledge and with such skills that all the people who had to capture him admired him, and there became more and more respect. It is a very good story because he came from a good family with a caring mother. He stood for what he had done, and he took the result and the responsibility. He was sentenced to death. He himself had captured 8 soldiers, but the 8 soldiers he did not kill. He sent them away, and he was asking for peace. I mean, if that is a national hero for Korea, and here you are trying to build on peace, and you have also your men in China, for me it's Ai Weiwei, I think that it is possible, because we know who is not dreaming is not a realist. You have a dream about Okinawa, to become an island of perpetual world peace, with a center that consists of 3 main institutions. The International Peace Center, the plan was born from your studies of geopolitical meanings in the human history of Okinawa, which is not yet free from various kinds of anachronism. The center will be a facility of promises to open the door to the future of humankind and help Okinawa become an island of perpetual world peace. The center consists of the following 3 institutions: the World War and Peace Pictures and Video Center, the Memorial Tower, and the Palace of Wa. On behalf of the Human Nature and Science Institute, you propose to make in the Korean Peninsula and Japan a nuclear zone with the strong support of the 3 nuclear powers, and designate that area as a birthplace of Wa. Wa is also the theme of the 23 World Scout Jamboree in Japan. In summer of 2015, so it's next year, also the step-by-step nuclear disarmament of all the nations with nuclear weapons, we believe, should start simultaneously. Simultaneously. That is the word. And I think now it's time to talk about the reason why I'm standing here. Last year, the Carnegie Foundation commissioned me to make a sculpture representing Bertha von Suttner. She lived from 1843 to 1914. On the occasion of the centenary, University of the Peace Palace in The Hague. I would like to take you with me on a journey that has been life-changing for me. In order to create a good sculpture, the sculptress has to immerse herself in the subject matter. To this end, Marianne Kleiwert, who is also the publisher of the book that is in front of you, and I decided to go on a trip and visit important places in her life. In her days, Bertha von Suttner was the most famous woman in the world. She was a writer, she was a peace activist, the first female laureate of the Nobel Prize, and spiritual mother of the Peace Palace that was financed by Andrew Carnegie. In her book, Lay Down Your Arms, on 1889, war is described from the point of view of the people staying at home. And for the very first time in history, not only for the people who were staying at home, but she focused on suffering. She challenged the prevailing view of her contemporaries that war was honorable and masculine. This result in peace movement was unprecedented. Die Waffen nieder, or that was the German name, die Waffen niet meer, lay down your arms, opens with the Battle of Solferino. The Battle of Solferino is a change for all of us. At the same time that the Battle of Solferino takes place in the north of Italy and the south of Austria, a man called Henry Dunant was looking. He saw and he was witness the enormous massacre that had taken place, and he prompts to find out the Red Cross. He was a dreamer. He was a banker from nature. And because he had that dream, all the bankers of Switzerland turned his back upon him. So he became very poor. And after 10 years, he was rescued by the Nobel Prize. The painter Goya had already painted his paintings and his engravings about the silliness of war. Many individuals at that time started to act different from what was normal. The fact over a period about 30 years, different people in different places all over Europe develop similar visions. It offers food for thought. My question to you is, could there have some kind of a widespread collective mindset? And if so, what does that mean? Before we set out our travels to travel the life of Bertha von Suttner, Mr. of State Peter Koymans pays a visit to my studio. Koymans was former Ministry of Outland Affairs, and he was one of the judges for 8 years in the International Court of Justice. I was once his student. I studied international law. And he said, first, you always in life, whatever you do, you ask what is right and what is just. And then you can continue. He said, but there is only one question you should ask yourself by portraying Bertha von Suttner. And that question is, who would that woman be today? Who would that woman be today? Would she be a member of Greenpeace? No. Would she be a member of Amnesty International? Yeah. Would she be accepted? No. Even today, her appeal for total disarmament is so revolutionary that she would not get foot on the ground. Koymans' visits give me the inspiration I was looking for. This was a challenge of my life. I know I will not making a woman of the 19th century, but I will make a woman living, clear, proud, professionate, intelligent, tenacious, creative, and very difficult. A woman who used everything to fight her battle. Everything, because she was so clever and she was so nice. A sculpture to inspire. In February 2013, Marianne and I drove to Germany, to the city of Gotha. We leave a bouquet of Dutch flowers at the columbarium, where her ashes were kept, and after that we drove to Prague. Her life unfolds like a novel. She came from very high aristocratic family. She was related to the empress. Her father dies before she was born, and her mother, oh dear, had a gambling addiction. And she gambled away Bertha's inheritance. When, at a marriageable age, Bertha rejected the proposals of 3 princes, she decided to become a self-supporting, And that was really a great disgrace for a woman of her social class at that time. This was her first act of resistance. She gets a position at the house of Baron van Soetner. And to the dismay of the families, Bertha van Soetner and the youngest son fell in love. When the situation became unbearable, Bertha leaves for Paris to work for Alfred Nobel, the founder of the Nobel Prize. When he meets the stunningly beautiful lady at the station, he falls in love immediately. And instead of saying hello, he forgot all his manners and he said, "Madam, is your heart still free?" Their working relationship was short. Bertha travels back to Vienna and marries Arthur von Soetner. Alfred Nobel proves to be a man of honor, and he kept sustaining Bertha all his life. The couple's relatives are furious and banish them. They take up residence in the Caucasus, where they witnesses the terrible Russo-Turkish war. With her own eyes, Bertha sees the humiliation and the disruption of war. In reaction to all the disasters of this war, she wrote, "Lay down your arms." This is her second deed of resistance. When finally Die Waffennieder is published in Austria and Germany, her books became a rage. It is translated immediately in 16 languages. All the languages are written down there. The first major peace movement in the world's history is a fact. Darwin's theory of evolution teaches Bertha that human beings are capable of change. She studied the psychological methods that governments use to manipulate their citizens and incite them to fight in their wars. Her analyses are razor sharp, confrontational, and still ring true today. Bertha asked Alfred Nobel many times to support the peace movement, but he refused every time. I understand this. He is the inventor of the dynamite. He, so sorry to say, but he was earning from war. However, Bertha was unaware of the fact that just before he died, he installed the Nobel Peace Prize in his last will. At the other side of the ocean, a man named Carnegie said, "What a responsibility. Now I am the richest man on earth, and I have to search good projects." She hears that. And Bertha set sail to America, where she gets in contact with Carnegie. Carnegie's granddaughter, Linda Torrehill, told me at the unveiling of the statue that they were really great friends. From now on, the difference between states will be resolved by juridical power and by standing up for other parties. Because she was able to ask Alfred Nobel to pay the Peace Palace. She said, "We need a court of arbitration." And she said, "War is very, very old-fashioned." She wrote her book and she was able to bring other points of view. I wanted to make her in her creative moments. This was a great argument with the people from the Peace Palace because they wanted to make me, her, old. I refused. I said, "No, I want to make her young." Somewhere in the negotiation, we stopped. And I could really say it was very hard for me. If I had made her old, what the director wanted of the Peace Palace, I missed the point of her creative moment. But it means that he could be angry on me, not paying me, and that we have a scandal. So at the unveiling, it was the first time he saw the statue. He looked on me and he said, I'm so happy that you listened in no way. So, just the day before the unveiling, I was sitting in the city hall and waiting to make it nice, etc., etc. And there a Japanese girl came up, and she was really looking very careful. I was interested. I thought, oh, that is a girl who's really looking. So I went up to her, and I said, you look so interested in this place. Can I tell you something about this place? And very quickly there were 6 people. And then there came an older man. He was on slippers, and he was dressed very easy. And we start talking, and I said, okay, I make the statue open because there is a Japanese sentence on my statue. So we stood there and laughed. And I said, tomorrow there is the unveiling. Come and see the unveiling, if you got time. The next day they came, and they look very well dressed. And I said, I live opposite the city hall. Go with me, have dinner on the veranda. There are another 60 people there eating. So they joined us to my house. And then people from the board of the Peace Palace said to me, how do you know Mr. Komatsu? I said, Mr. Komatsu? I don't know Mr. Komatsu. He's standing there. I said, but I don't know. I found him on the street. So that's the story about how we met each other. Dear audience, I said already the word simultaneously. There is a sculpture in The Hague, and there is a sculpture in Matsué. And it are both sculptures to inspire. In The Hague, young people are inspired to think about war and peace. The lessons are given with the statue of Bertha von Suttner in their midst. The Hague is a city of peace and justice. They were giving lessons to youngsters, duty-bound about questions about peace and war. They are made aware of the fact that an individual is almost always able to stand up and to make a difference. Bertha von Suttner lived in an age in which a collective mindset existed. The question we should ask ourselves now is, do we also live in an age with a widespread collective mindset? And if so, what do you intend to do with it? Shakespeare said that artists are the true witnesses of their age. But arts are capable of more than just being a witness. The arts are able to transform, to entrails the unutterable feelings, varying from deep belongings to inconceivable hardship. Things can be discussed without directly naming. In this mechanism that enables the unimaginable to become imaginable. In this subject, Albert Einstein remarked, imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all what we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. Literature and the visual arts boost imagination. The arts mobilize our conscience. By placing oneself in someone else's shoes, the other will become more familiar. And destruction will no longer be an option. Give the enemy a face. What I have been saying in the last 40 minutes can be summarized to the next couple of sentences. The world is far more complex than we can imagine. And even if we do not understand the question, I still know the answer. The answer is education. Let's change the course of the river for the future of mankind. That means disarmament. We can only achieve this if people in different places all over the world are working simultaneously. The arts are the transmitters because thoughts, images, words, sounds, that shapes our imagination and did triggers to come into action. The train of thoughts remind me of the conversation on my studio with Mr. Koimans. He really liked to think with me. You are privileged to react on development in the world within the field of the arts. You can directly respond, and within the context of a long tradition. The International Court of Justice in The Hague is so slow and has to deal with so many restrictions that it has to be careful not to practice law to a world that has no long existed. Mr. Komatsu, you not only have a vision about the future, about a beautiful future for the world, but also about the steps necessary to achieve it. I have deep respect for you and your team. I can only say that all important people started by following their dreams, and this closes the circle. Whoever doesn't believe in dreams is not a realist. And all of my students will shout out warm regards, and folks, peace is cool. Thank you.